सब लोग पानी पी के बैठे रहते हैं।
कौन सी बेड?
अभी का रेड है ब्राउन के।
Bro, you could definitely throw a punch. मेरे साथ चला मेरे साथ घूमेगी। कितना weird लगेगा मैं तीसरी सामने के घूमने को बचाओ।
इसलिए मेरे साथ चलना ही नहीं बहुत
देखो भाई genuinely genetics से मैंने कोशिश ही नहीं की कभी बढ़ाने की। So mom, I love. Yes, queen.
And then we won't fight for this.
Thank you, mom.
डाउन ट्रेनिंग किया? नहीं। तुम लोग करके आए? नहीं। कुछ तो बात किया करो।
बीच में यार में गया था। Happy summer vacation, Michelle. It's not happy.
Summer vacation मेरे को एक सब्जेक्ट में 5 सबमिट मिला।
हमको कुछ नहीं मिला है। 90 लिबर्टी है।
किस बेकार है वो? मेरे सामने से भी बेकार है। मेरे नाम में हिस्ट्री में उसके ऊपर 3 प्रैक्टिस शीट और नोटबुक दी थी।
रायत में आओ गाइस, कभी होमवर्क ही नहीं मिलता, कोई टीचर में होमवर्क हमें कुछ नहीं मिला
और इंग्लिश में
स्कूल में
जो वाला कॉमिक्स स्ट्रिप बना मुझे भी एकदम बेकार टॉपिक कॉमिक्स स्ट्रिप में खुद को ड्रॉ करना नहीं डिजिटली मतलब प्रिंट करना अलाउ हमारी मैम ने बोला प्रिंट अलाउ नहीं करना
मैं करके देती हूँ। हाँ लेजेंड कौन ड्राइंग स्केच में स्केच का कोई असाइनमेंट है, स्केच में मेरा है यही करो, टेक्स्ट करो, जो करना है करो, मैं सब करके दूंगी।
स्टोरी भी देखना फालतू भी
मुझे ड्राइंग करने के लिए कुछ चाहिए वेकेशन में।
स्टोरी लाइन भी फालतू में
चैप्टर से रिलेटेड कुछ भी टॉपिक दे देंगे, कुछ भी दे देंगे चैप्टर से।
स्टोरी लाइन भी फालतू है।
और हेडलाइन
आपने कोई रिग्रेट किया है? ज्यादा फालतू में क्या ही करूंगी इस पॉइंट।
ब्रो नशे करते हैं, दैट इज लाइफ गोल्स, ठीक है? गांजा LSD करेंगे, सोफिस्टिकेटेड ड्रग्स करते हैं। आई एम सॉरी दैट इज ये मैंने अभी कल खाई है। तुम लोग का पानी पूरी का प्लान है? हाँ आएगी पर जल्दी से।
मैं नहीं खाई
मैं
मुझे
ही बताया करो यार।
संडे
मेरी डांस क्लास है।
मेरी
डांस क्लास है।
लेकिन मेरे को कराटे जाना है। इतना मुझे
मैरी भी करना है काम करो।
तुम्हारे पेशा मोटी
गाइस तुम लोग इतने हो लेकिन वो नहीं आता कराटे। ठीक है लेट्स ट्राई।
किधर जाते हो? आया मैं।
हाँ
कराटे सर
जायची मी रेल्वेला जायची
कराटे जोन कितने बजे आज क्लास? चला ना मैं इसी के
मध्ये किती से हो सकता
नहीं ऐसा बजे नहीं है इधर से डायरेक्ट जाओ।
हाँ तो सारी ब्रेक खा चुप रहे
नहीं
सर्विस में डिजास्टर पे 20 बजे तक लिखना है पूरा। अभी तो 4 बजे से तुम्हारी समर वेकेशन बर्बाद है भाई। मैं तो जा रही हूँ मेरे दोस्तों के साथ घूमने, सब काम करो।
छुट्टी में कितना छुट्टी भी आए लोगों को मर रहे छुट्टी के
नहीं मैं कॉल कर रही हूँ बिहार में मैं जा रही हूँ
छुट्टी में हमारे स्कूल को ऑलरेडी होमवर्क करना पड़ेगा। मैंने तो सोचा है
समर वेकेशन में मैं थॉट शीट कर गई, ठीक है? नो मोर होमवर्क, ओनली शेक दैट एस एंड पुट ऑन द म्यूजिक, नो होमवर्क।
And then I'm like, don't worry, history में homework तो ज़्यादा notebook में नहीं कराया, वो सब भी complete करना ऊपर से। And then जैसे ही start हुआ first class में text। हाँ हम लोगों में बोला है।
थर्सडे को ड्राइंग वगैरह के असाइनमेंट सेंड कर देना, मैं एक्चुअली कर दूँगी।
हमारा
कॉलेज में क्या बात है? मेरी बद्दुआ है। What happened? School holidays started? Not yet. So started, no? All school started, no? Holidays?
Yes.
I have my last day tomorrow. It's good. And rest all started? Yes. And opening when? It's opening first week to myself.
Now, we are doing the chapter on cell, no? Fundamental unit of life. I think we have finished with all the cell organelles, did we? Check, did we finish with all the cell organelles?
Did you do plastic?
No, we did not do plastic. Satchel. And I think we did not even do liposomes.
Did I do Golgi?
Yes, we were on Golgi.
You are on one. You are on one.
Check your notebook.
We did Golgi, we did lysosomes.
If I have done Golgi, I must have done lysosomes.
Yes, on lysosomes.
Endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, Golgi, and lysosomes.
All done. Nucleus.
No, we did not.
Not yet. Okay.
Mom, can you please explain rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum again? I'm having troubles in that.
Rough and smooth.
Yeah, endoplasmic.
Rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. If you follow the diagram, basic structure is what? What you have to understand for the structure. Rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum, if it is rough,
Yes.
the outer membrane of endoplasmic reticulum will have ribosomes. If it is smooth, there will be no ribosomes. That is the structural part. Next is you are supposed to remember where are they present. Location. Location, what will you understand? If it is the rough endoplasmic reticulum, they are majorly present in cells which need or produce more proteins. Ribosomes are majorly involved in protein formation, protein synthesis. So, if I talk about rough endoplasmic reticulum, always understand they are present in muscle cells. Muscle cells, all the different types of muscle cells where the production of proteins is much more. Ribosomes are always involved in protein synthesis. And if I talk about the smooth types are always involved in the formation of oil molecules, lipids. So they would be majorly again present in cells such as the liver cells. So the liver cells, the skin cells, liver cells, they are basically involved in formation of lipids. So this is about the structure, about the location. Function I also told you. If it is rough, formation of proteins. If it is smooth, formation of lipids. Okay. And overall, if we have to understand what does the endoplasmic reticulum do, overall, what do they do otherwise? Apart from formation of proteins, formation of lipids, these are the two functions I told just now. Apart from that, what do they do? Since endoplasmic reticulum is a network of tubes in a cell and almost present in the cytoplasm spread out. So they may also be responsible for the shape of the cell. So we would say the endoplasmic reticulum also provides structural framework to the cell. Next, what did I explain you the other day? If it is endoplasmic reticulum, these tubes of endoplasmic reticulum, they would be releasing the proteins or lipids, and the proteins and lipids that they release is in the form of small packets from the tubules. No, we had drawn those tubules like this, double membrane tubes we had drawn. So these tubes are producing proteins and lipids, but in what form? In the form of small vesicles, packets. You remember I explained you that way. Now these packets are constantly moving from one region of the other, one region of the cell to the other, where they may be used. From the endoplasmic reticulum, these packets may start moving towards the nuclear membrane, maybe their role, or maybe the proteins are to be used, the lipids are to be used. So from the endoplasmic reticulum, they can move to various locations of the cell itself, or they can move from one cell to the other also, meaning they can go out from one cell and enter into another cell also, those small packets. So this is the transport function of endoplasmic reticulum, transport. So what is one? Framework. Second is what? Transport. Fourth, formation of proteins. Third, fourth, formation of lipids. And the fifth function is when a cell is in the process of formation, when a new cell forms, the cell has to form the membranes also. This is what is known as membrane formation or membrane biogenesis, membrane formation. So for the process of membrane formation, endoplasmic reticulum also plays a role. What is the role the endoplasmic reticulum is playing for the formation of proteins? It is releasing the proteins and lipids, and proteins and lipids are the major components of the endoplasm of the cell membranes. Are you clear? So now, when I talk about that, these proteins and lipids that the endoplasmic reticulum produces in the form of small packets, are they involved in the formation of membranes of the cell itself? Yes, because the membranes of a cell are very much made of proteins and lipids only. So whenever a cell is formed, a new cell is formed, does it require a large amount of proteins and lipids? Yes, it does. Then which part of the cell produces those proteins and lipids? Which part of the cell produces those proteins and lipids? The endoplasmic reticulum itself, the rough or the smooth. No? So that is what is the membrane biogenesis function. So these are the 4 or 5 functions I think we have discussed about the endoplasmic reticulum, their structure, their function.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything that you want to clarify?
Ma'am, also the difference between cell wall and cell membrane. What exactly are their functions or how do they differ?
No, functions are a bit different, composition
Because
is...
like our teacher was like they're basically the same thing. One is inside, one is outside, and one is only present in plants. So what do they actually serve?
If you talk about cell wall and cell membrane, cell wall only in the plant cells.
Yeah.
Did I complete that? Cell wall, cell membrane, did I complete?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Yes, I'll discuss that if I have not completed. So now we have already completed mitochondria. Dekho,
Yes, ma'am.
mitochondria done. Golgi done. Endoplasmic reticulum done. Lysosomes done. That's it. That's it. So let us start with the other cell organelles. What are we left with? In that case, the nucleus. First of all, let us start with the nucleus. Then we'll have to take up the plant cells. When I talk about the nucleus, say suppose I draw only the nucleus. How would the nucleus look like? How would the nucleus look like? The nucleus would basically have a double wall. The nucleus would basically have a double wall. In the diagram of the cell that we have drawn also, if you check, the nucleus would basically have a double wall. What is there inside the nuclear region? Fine thread-like structures. What did we call those thread-like structures? Chromatin fibers. And now we are going to understand what would be the role, what would be the structure of those fine thread-like structures. What are their terms at different stages of the cell? This would be the basic structure of a nucleus. What are these parts? The first is, what do you call this as? This is known as the nuclear membrane. Again, the moment I talk about a membrane, membranes are always rich in proteins and lipids. The membranes are always rich in proteins and lipids, again to understand whether it is a nuclear membrane or it is a cell membrane. Okay, cell membrane, the outer membrane of the cell or the nuclear membrane. What else? What is this known as? This is known as the nucleolus
So all the membranes are made up of proteins, like
and lipids.
proteins
And
and
lipids.
cell membrane, the mitochondrial membrane.
All membranes except for the cell wall.
Okay.
Except for cell wall. Cell wall has a different composition. I'll tell you later. What are these thread-like structures? Only in plants. Correct. What are these thread-like structures? These thread-like structures are known as chromatin. These thread-like structures are known as chromatin fibers.
They contain the DNA.
They contain DNA. Very good. So now, basically, if I have to understand the structure of a nucleus, now this is more or less standard when I talk about the plants and animal cell. More or less the same. Is there any structural difference when I talk about the nucleus of the plant and animal cell? Nothing. Only that, if I have to talk about the cell of a plant, the nucleus is always towards the margin. Did we draw the diagram of plant cell?
I have given it for homework.
You all did it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. You already-
Are you sure?
And last
Last
only
class we were-
made us not do it. Yeah, right.
Because there was no class,
Huh.
it was standard, so we did the diagram.
All of you did?
Yes, ma'am. Everyone.
In your notebook?
No, ma'am, in a white sheet. She gave us a white sheet before.
Then
So we will not have.
Then in that case, you have to cut it and paste it here.
Yes, ma'am.
You have this laminated sheet.
No. Inside of it.
So you have labeled it with a pen. I want all of you to draw the diagram in your notebook again.
Okay.
Draw the diagram. I will give you time today. I will draw it here now. All of you, because these two diagrams you will get in the paper, in the example draw. Animal cell, plant cell. In this chapter, these are the two diagrams you should know very well. So what I'm saying is that now that I talk about the structure of the nucleus, the structure of the nucleus structure in a plant and animal cell is the same. The nucleus is made up of double-walled membrane known as nuclear membrane. It has got fine thread-like structures known as chromatin fibers. It has got cytoplasm of the matrix substance, and this matrix substance would be known as nucleoplasm. The matrix would be known as nucleoplasm.
Ma'am, it's the same as cytoplasm, or does it have?
No, some composition is
It's like a
different.
liquid
What is the
like
function of
substance inside.
chromatin fibers?
I'll tell you. No, if I talk about the cytoplasm and the nucleoplasm, are they the same? Not exactly. Composition is a bit different. The types of the proteins and the enzymes are a bit different in the nucleoplasm than in the cytoplasm. But the consistency is more or less the same. It is just like a gel. Consistency is same.
So what exactly is its purpose?
Purpose is, since it is a semi-fluid medium, it helps in the dissolving of substances, movement of substances, and various different type of ions and enzymes are present in the soluble form. Okay. So I said what? That if I have to talk about the plants and the animal cell nucleus, the structure of the nucleus is more or less the same, but the position would differ. Position differs. If you see the diagram of the animal cell that we have drawn, in case of the animal cell diagram, we had already drawn the nucleus in the center, but now that we draw the plant cell, you can check the diagram of the plant cell in your book. In the plant cell, the nucleus is never drawn in the center. The nucleus is always towards the margin because of the position of the vacuole. The vacuole takes the middle, the central position of a plant cell. Now let us learn some important structures. So we already discussed about the structure parts what the nucleus contains. Now we are talking about the most important chromatin fibers which the nucleus consists of. What are chromatin fibers? These are fine long thread-like structures. These are fine long thread-like structures. What are they made up of? These are
They inherit what do you call it? They store the inherited information.
So now when I talk about the chromatin fibers, let us take one by one. these thread-like structures, what is there inside the nucleus, what do we call them as chromatin fibers. Now these chromatin fibers, what are they made up of? They are made up of DNA. Something like, I talk about these chromatin fibers, the long thread-like structures, So when I talk about the chromatin fibers, they are so long and they remain tangled. And if I look into a cell which has got chromatin, it is very difficult to understand how many of these thread-like structures are present. But these chromatin in the cell, as the cell gets mature, these chromatin in a cell, as the cell is getting mature. Now, what is the meaning when the cell gets mature? A small cell just after division is a young cell. And these cells will start growing, develop all the organelles, become bigger in size, and develop itself or get ready for the process of division again. No? So this is what we are talking about, the growth of a cell. And the cell becomes mature, and then now the cell divides. So if I have to understand that these chromatin fibers, do they remain the same inside the cell, or they also change according to the stage of growth of the cell? No, if a cell is young, what did I say? What is the meaning of a young cell?
The cell that is
Which is just formed by division. This is a cell, mature cell, and this cell will have thread-like structures, and this cell is now dividing. This is a mature cell, I show you. Now this is a cell which is dividing, and then two new cells are formed. Now why did I draw differently? This is a mature cell. This is a young cell formed after division. So in a young cell which is just formed after division, the nucleus will always contain fine thread-like structures known as chromatin. The nucleus will always contain fine thread-like structures known as chromatin. But this cell again, it will become bigger, growing, maturing. This cell is growing and maturing, and then these fine thread-like structures, they also become more and more condensed and coiled. What does that mean? Each of these thread-like structures, they would become extensively condensed and coiled. They become extensively condensed and coiled, and as they become extensively condensed and coiled, they start appearing shorter. So this long thread-like structure, which remains tangled, we cannot understand how many of them are there, is always in a young cell. But as the cell matures and again prepares for the process of division, these fine chromatin also undergoes extensive coiling. And as they go coiling, they just become shorter. By coiling, any thread-like structure can become short, no? Shorter, and they appear thicker. Just imagine a spring. When it is extensively coiled, it is shorter and thicker. But the same when I am pulling it, it may be so long and so thin. So same is the concept of chromatin and chromosome now. So now that they have become condensed and coiled, are we still to name them as chromatin? No, we will not name them as chromatin now. Rather, we will have to name them as chromosomes. Now we will name them as chromosomes. Then, what did I tell you just now is...
Chromatin and chromosomes are the same thing.
Composition is same, but one is extensively long and thin, and the other is present in the
same function.
Function is same.
Chromatin is like a young version of chromosome.
Function is same, composition is same, only that when they are present in a young cell, they look like this, fine, long, tangled. And when the cell matures, the same thread-like structure starts coiling and coiling and coiling and coiling and they become short. They become thicker. Understanding? So now we say that these are chromosomes. But if I try understanding that what are they made up of? I want to see a small portion of them and try to see what are they made up of. These chromosomes or a portion of chromatin studied in detail. What will we understand? They are made up of some ribbon-like structures, and these ribbon-like structures are known as what? These ribbon-like structures are known as the DNA. The coiled and the helical structure, almost like a ribbon or like a ladder, you say. This is known as the DNA molecule. This is known as the DNA. So what is the full form of DNA? DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. So what is DNA? DNA is the composition of the chromatin or the chromosome. DNA is the composition of chromatin or chromosome. Now, when I talk about the DNA, what is this DNA doing? What is its function? When I talk about the DNA, the entire DNA has got segments. We can divide the entire DNA into segments, and we may find that each of the segments has got the capacity. Each of these segments are actually producing certain type of a protein which helps in the expression of a characteristics that we show. Now, what is the meaning of characteristics? Characteristics means when I talk about the characteristics that we show, say suppose we understand the characteristics like the skin color that we have, the eye color that we have, the texture of the hair that we have, our height that we understand. So many of these are all characteristics. Should we put off the AC?
Yes.
Because I'm already having a lot of throat problem and feeling very dried out. Cannot talk after some time. So now, when we are talking about the deoxyribonucleic acid, what I said, what is it? DNA. What is it? It is the composition of the chromatin or the chromosome. What is the chromatin and chromosome made up of? DNA. But look into the DNA, you will come across that the DNA has got many segments. And every single segment is responsible for a particular characteristic that we show. What should be the color of our hair? What should be the color of our eyes? What should be the shape of our eyes, nose, fingers? What should be our height? Everything is because of what type of genes that we have in our DNA. What type of genes that we have in our DNA. Now, these genes or these segments which are there in the DNA, from where did we get them? We have got it from our parents. From where did we get these chromosomes? From where did we get this DNA? From our parents. So now, these entire long ribbon-like structure, which has some few set of genes, is it the same in my chromosome and my parents' chromosome? Will it be the same in my These DNA, I'm saying, where is DNA present? Inside the chromatin. Where is the DNA? Where is this ribbon-like structure present? This ribbon-like structure is present inside the chromatin. This ribbon-like structure is present inside the chromatin. This ribbon-like structure is present inside the chromosome. So I already told you that a small portion of the chromosome magnified to see what it is made up of. A small portion of the chromatin magnified to see what it is made up of. We will see that yes, it is made up of such type of double wall structures, thread-like structures. And this is almost like a ladder, almost like a ribbon. This is known as a double helical. Why helical? Because it is curved. It is not straight ribbon-like. So now, what I again told you is that these entire length of the DNA, these DNA has got small segments all over. every small segment is responsible for a particular type of a characteristic that we show. Every particular segment is responsible for a characteristic that we show. So these particular segments are known as what? Genes. So I already gave you examples. What are genes and what type of characteristics? The genes that we have, that is what is responsible for the different type of characteristics like the color of our skin, the color of our hair, the shape of our fingers, nose, eyes, etc., etc. Everything is because of what type of genes we have in our DNA. But the question now is that from where did we get this DNA and from where did we get this chromatin and the chromosome? We have got this chromatin and chromosome and the DNA from whom? From where? From our parents. From our parents. When we were in the form of a single cell in our mother's womb, so all these structures got arranged in those cells, and later this cell divided and we came into existence. No? So now these genes, if I say these genes, did we get it from our parents?
Yes.
The characteristics that we show, did we get it from our parents? Yes. Did you realize, did you ever come across that you show a lot of characteristics same like your parents?
Yes.
Yes. I think I must have asked you also the same the other day, did I? Or no, maybe another batch. So now if I ask you that at least one or two characteristics, can you tell me which matches with your parents, mother or father?
I used to look, apparently I used to look exactly like my father did.
You look like your father. So nice.
Facial features.
Huh?
Facial features.
Like your?
Eyes, nose.
Like your?
Eye.
Huh?
Nose.
Like your mother or father?
Father.
Father. And?
My face is pretty much like my mom.
Mother.
My body
Say
structure.
specific. Huh?
The structure of my body is exactly like my father's.
Father.
Exactly
Like your father. Huh? Yes, for you?
Eye color.
Eye color. Like your?
Mom.
Mother. So if I ask this side also, did you realize that you have certain characteristics like your father? Can you tell me one characteristic that is similar with you and your mother?
Height.
Height. Father?
Body hair.
Body? Hair. So yes, we all have some of the other characteristics same like our father and mother, because when we were getting formed in our mother's womb, these chromosomes, half we got from the father and half we got from the mother, and then the complete set was formed. So now if I say that a cell of an organism has got 4 chromosomes. Out of these 4, 2 will be from the mother and 2 will be from the father. It is always like that. Whatever number of chromosomes we have in our cells, do you know how many chromosomes we have in our cells? 46, correct. So that means how many we must have got from our father? 23, always just the half of it. 23 from our mother, 23 from our father. So now I talk about that in those chromosomes of the father and the mother, there were these type of small segments known as genes, which was responsible for certain characters, and now that they have formed our body, that's why we resemble them. The nose shape same like the mother, the height same like the father, the texture of the hair same like the father, the color of the skin same like the mother. So why do we show so much of resemblances? Why are we not completely different? We cannot be completely different because the chromosomes which are there in our cells, we got it from our parents. Since we got them from our parents, we would say these are hereditary characters. So we got them from our parents. Then when I talk about myself, I got some characteristics from my parents. And my daughter has got some characteristics same like me. So what would you call these as? Certain characteristics are running in the generations. Huh? Again, if I ask you, Who has grandparents? Who is in touch with grandparents very closely? Huh? So did you ever observe that you have or your sister has one or two characteristics same like your grandparents?
Our cousin does the exact same of our grandpa.
So it will be like that because your blood group, your hair color, your etc. Something or the other, quite a lot of characteristics that you get from your parents would be the same that your parents got from their own parents. So what happened? These characteristics, I say, maybe for me, 4 characteristics I see quite similar like my mother. And she got it from her mother or from her father. So what do I say? These are heritable characteristics. Hereditary. What is the meaning of that word? Hereditary. Hereditary means the genes carry hereditary characteristics. The genes carry hereditary characteristics. What is the meaning of hereditary characteristics? Characteristics which passes from generation to generation. Hereditary characteristics that passes from generation to generation. But now you tell me, say suppose I talk about a woman who had colored her hair. I talk about a woman who had pierced her ear. I talk about a man who had made very big tattoos all over the body. Now, when they give rise to a child, will the child have all these features?
No.
Will the child have all these features by birth? No, not at all. Why not? Because these are not hereditary characteristics. These characteristics are not due to the chromosomes we get from our parents. This, every individual has to get it done. And this cannot be due to the DNA that runs in the generations. So what are hereditary characteristics? Characteristics which
Pass on from generation
passes
to generation.
from one generation to another, one generation to another, one generation to another. So hereditary characteristics. So now we talk about what are genes? Genes control hereditary characteristics. Genes help in expression of hereditary characteristics. So if I have to understand the general functions of the nucleus, one or two general functions we will see also. What are some general functions of the nucleus? The nucleus is also known as the director of the cell. Why? Because the nucleus can produce variety of enzymes and proteins and regulate all the other organelles to carry out their functions. Regulate all the other organelles. Which are the other organelles? Lysosome, Golgi, mitochondria, etc. to carry out their functions. And what is the second function to remember? Nucleus contain chromosomes which are responsible for the hereditary characteristics, expression of hereditary characteristics. What is the definition of gene, you are asked? You may write down the definition of the gene in your notebook. Genes. What are genes? Write down. Genes are functional segments. Genes are functional segments of the DNA. Genes are functional segments of the DNA. That functional segments of the DNA that I'm sorry, cut that word. That functional segment of the DNA responsible for the formation of certain proteins, responsible for formation of certain proteins and expression of hereditary characteristics. Expression of hereditary characteristics. Expression of hereditary characteristics. Take the definition of gene, very important. Now we will take out the plant cell. Draw the diagram of the plant cell nicely.
Are factors present in animal cells?
Very small, if at all, otherwise no.
So what functions do they serve like in the animal cell? Because in plant cell they are important.
In animal cells, only the transport of the proteins and lipids and other different type of enzymes and hormones.
Okay, so
They are only acting as packets to carry something or the other from one part of the cell to the other, from one cell to the other.
okay. So they only play a necessary role in plant cells.
Huh.
Ma'am, can you explain the functions of chromatin fibers again?
Chromatin fibers, what did I tell you? What is not understood? Chromatin fibers, I told you, these are fine thread-like structures. And these, who told me this? Chromatin fibers, I told you, these are fine thread-like structures. These thread-like structures, do they remain always like this in a cell? No. If the cell is young, they would be like this. If the cell is maturing and getting ready for division, then they will take a shape something like this. Now, when they take a shape something like this, now what? We understand that take a small portion of it to see what it is made up of. You understand that it is made up of a ladder-like structure, a very, very complex molecule. What do we name that molecule as? DNA. But this ladder-like structure is now found that it has small segments all over. The entire DNA divided into small, small segments. Every segment forming some or the other protein. Because of these proteins which are getting formed in the cell, we show different type of characteristics. So what will you write as the function of chromatin? Chromatin or chromosomes are the carriers of heredity. They are the bearers, carriers of hereditary structures of information.
Chromatin fibers and chromosomes are also present in plant cells, right?
Same, I told you, animal cell and plant cell structure of the nucleus state.
There cannot be a change in skin color in plants. So what?
No, if you talk about the genes in the chromosomes will be different. In case of the genes of the chromosomes, in case of a plant cell, obviously the plant cell will not have genes which will produce proteins for the eye color and the hair texture. No? For them, the proteins would be different. For them, the gene sequence is different. But
how do they decide that? Like?
No, for the plants, it would be genes for what type of a pigment, what type of an enzyme, what type of a membrane, all these genes. The plant cells also will have DNA. DNA again will have a whole lot of genes. But the genes will have different information as compared to the information that is there in an animal cell.
So they don't decide the structure of.
They decide. If I talk about the animal cell, they are deciding the shape and the color and the height and so many to think. What about the plant cell? Yes, what should be the color of the fruit? What should be the size of the flower? What should be the shape of the leaf? The veins, the height, the xylem, the phloem, the etc. 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 All the features which are related to the plant now.
Ma'am, isn't fruit like food, extra food stored by the plant? How is that inherent?
How is?
Isn't fruit like extra food that is stored by the plant?
Extra food.
Yes, ma'am. How is that inherent?
Extra food that is present in a plant.
That is converted. So he's trying to say that fruits are basically extra starch or food that is produced by the plant, right?
No, not necessarily.
That's what we have been taught. Like every fruit
Is made of starch.
Is like an extra starch or glucose that was produced in the plants, in the plant.
The plant produces food by the process of photosynthesis.
Oh.
Whatever food, like say for us, let me sit and explain.
You were given an example of potatoes in our class.
No, potatoes are okay, but when I talk about the process of photosynthesis, plants are undergoing the process of photosynthesis. Plants are making food more than what they require.
Yes.
Do we eat food more than what is required for our body?
No. We don't.
We don't? Do you measure to eat?
No, but we feel full.
No, so that is it. So if we feel full when we are eating, that means we are only going by the capacity of our stomach, no?
Yeah.
But actually, if we need food, people who are, take a proper diet, people who are on a diet, they will never take food till they feel full. But majority of us, what we do? No, we have taken one or two roti, one bowl, now we are full, now we don't. But maybe we have still eaten much more than what our body needs. Maybe our body needs just one roti and one bowl of vegetable and dal and that's all. But that one bowl of vegetable and one bowl of dal and one bowl of curd, who wants to eat every day? But we would love to eat the egg also, and then things which goes by our tongue and something that fills our stomach quite a number of times. Same like the plant. The plant produces food more than what it requires.
Yes.
So what happens to the excess food that it
Right,
prepares?
it's stored in the form of fruits and vegetables.
It is stored in the form of starch
Yeah.
in variety of fruits, flowers, seeds, vegetables. Yes. But when I saw
Flowers are also.
flowers mean in the ovary part of the flower, the reproductive organs of the flower, because this flower has to give rise to the seed later and a new plant later.
Yes.
So when I talk about variety of the fruits and crops and vegetables, yes, they contain stored food in them. But it is not only that they are fully made of starch. They have got so many other type of nutrients also in there.
Yes.
I talk about the beetroot and all these, etc., etc. Is it only they have got starch in it? No, they have got so many other different type of nutrients and pigments and etc., etc. Starch is there little bit. But potato and all, if I talk about, yes, majority of it is starch and other different minerals, very less. Let us go back.
When a cell divides and it forms two small and the chromosomes are there, so the chromosomes number increases as the cell grows.
No, number will remain same.
So now when they divide again, the number
The
goes
number
down.
will become double. A cell has 4 chromosomes. As this cell is in the process of division, the cell will make 8 chromosomes out of 4.
I think the chromosomes also divide.
Chromosomes divide, but first they multiply and then they divide.
So the chromosomes
So whatever
increase
number
when
you
they
mean
divide.
by
it will just become double.
Just like a cell divide.
The number of chromosomes will first increase, will first multiply and then they will divide. Complete this diagram now.
And the nucleus also divides.
Now what is the difference between
Nucleus doesn't divide. The nucleus contains chromosomes. Chromosomes
No,
divide.
when the cell divides into two, the nucleus also divides into one for each new cell.
We would not say nucleus divides. It is the chromosome which is dividing, so also the nucleus. It is not nucleus dividing, chromosomes dividing, so also nucleus.
So the nucleolus, everything gets split into two.
No, nucleolus is just used up in the process of division. Nucleolus will be formed new again.
Okay.
Nucleolus does not split into two. It
What
will
is
be
the
formed
function?
new.
Okay. Yeah, what's the function of nucleolus?
It has various proteins and enzymes which are necessary for division of the cell, functioning of chromosomes.
Now what is the difference between DNA and genes?
DNA and
Genes.
DNA is the chemical composition of the chromosome. DNA is the chemical composition of chromosome. Genes are the specific segments of the DNA that are responsible for a character. Genes are segments of the DNA.
say that DNA contains genes?
DNA contains genes, yes. That is what I showed you here, no? DNA contains genes, say this.
I don't understand the difference actually.
Of
DNA.
DNA and genes.
Yeah.
What is the chromosome made up of? What is the chromosome made up of? I talk about these wires, these electric wires.
Yes.
I try to take out the rubber casing to see what is this wire made up of. I get to see it is made up of copper. So also chromosomes made of DNA. But I try to see that what is this copper wire consisting of? It has got ions inside. It is made up of various chargeable ions.
Yes.
Same that way, this DNA, which is made or which forms the chromosome, is not all the same all over. It has got small regions, many, and each region for one type of a protein to be formed. These regions which forms a protein to show a character is a gene. What is the DNA? What is DNA? The chemical composition of chromosomes. Try to see what is inside the chromosome, what is inside the chromatin. It is DNA. Study the DNA in detail. You get to see sections. What are these sections controlling? Are characteristics. So what are these characteristics called? Genes.
So chromatin or chromosomes is made up of DNA and DNA is made up of genes.
DNA consists
of genes.
Consists of
DNA? Genes are
I'm telling you
responsible.
repeatedly. Listen, try to understand what I'm saying.
What is the difference?
DNA is responsible for
Hereditary.
the controlling of all the characteristics that we show. DNA has genes. Genes are responsible for hereditary characteristics. So what is the DNA responsible for? Making proteins, and all these proteins will show one or the other hereditary characteristics that we show. Now, if I ask you, tell me 4 hereditary characteristics, just how I asked you some characteristics. So the shape of the eyes, nose, body color, hair color, eye color, etc., etc. All these are characteristics. That is because of our DNA.
No, I can't say DNA is made up of genes.
Huh?
Why can't you say that DNA is made up of genes?
No, DNA is made up of genes. You can see only when the DNA, when the composition of DNA is genes. The correct way of saying is DNA consists of functional statements known as genes. Can I say this batch is made up of 10 students? No, I'll say this batch is consisting of 10 students.
Ma'am, actually I had a doubt on prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell. I did not get it.
What is it?
I'm not understanding what's the basic difference.
Prokaryotic cell is a cell which will not have nuclear membrane. Talk about the structure of a bacteria. If it is a prokaryotic cell, it will not have the If it is a prokaryotic cell, it will not have the nuclear membrane, and the chromatin or the chromosome will be just scattered in the cytoplasm. Refer to the diagram of the bacteria.
Yes, ma'am.
And if it is a eukaryotic cell, that is what we are drawing right now also.
Actually, it will not have a nucleus.
If it is a eukaryotic cell, for a eukaryotic cell, a nuclear membrane is a must. The nucleus is a distinct nucleus. Whatever be the number of chromosomes, obviously, if it is eukaryotic, number of chromosomes are many.
And so prokaryotic cells, like they don't have a nucleus.
Well
Like
developed
the,
nucleus.
all the chromatins are spread
Bacteria, correct.
Ma'am, then if we break the word prokaryotic,
We get primary nuclear segments.
Primary
So what is
or
primary?
primitive, not primary, primitive basically.
Primitive.
Pro means primitive. Karyotic
Older.
from carry-on. Pro means primitive,
Older.
not older. Older cell is a different concept. Older cell means the cell from which a new cell comes.
Yeah.
Prokaryotic means a cell for all generations. Not say suppose I talk about the bacteria. The bacterial cells are present in this universe almost the same as human. But till today, the bacterial cells are prokaryotic, but human cells are eukaryotic. So I would say these are primitive cells, simple cells. These are generation after generation, they have remained simple. So how we are judging the simplicity? Nuclear membrane present or absent? Cell organelles present or absent? Chromosome just one or two or many?
Also, it doesn't have cell organelles.
No, almost nothing.
So how does it function? How does it carry out life
Because it is
function?
so simple. How does the amoeba function? It is so simple.
It does have some organelles.
Few, just few ribosomes. That's it. That is enough.
I mean, what is a nuclear?
Nucleoid is the unorganized nucleus of a prokaryotic cell.
Basically, in a prokaryotic cell, it calls the nucleus a nucleus.
Huh?
In a prokaryotic cell, you would call the nucleus a nucleus.
Correct.
Ma'am, is there any reason why cell wall is only present in plants?
Because the plant cells, they are more resistant. Plant cells need to be more resistant because the plant cells, if I talk about especially the cells of the root, it is nature. See, it is made up in such a way. The root cells, they are constantly in contact with water. Yes. We can protect ourselves from the water and the heat and etc. But the plant cells, they have to be in contact with the soil and the water. So the plant cell wall is rigid, protective, prevents the cell from getting damaged, gives shape to the cell wall, gives shape to the plant cell. So basically, if I talk about the cell wall helps, provides protection majorly.
Is the cell wall on the outside of the or the inside? Like is the outside wall or inside wall?
Outside. See what I'm drawing.
Now, what is flagella?
It's a fine thread-like structure in bacteria which helps in movement. Now, if you see this diagram as you draw, listen.
Still trying the red.
You may take 2 minutes later to finish the diagram. Just look at this now. Let us discuss about the plastids and the vacuole. What did we draw here is the shape of the nucleus, more or less same like the animal cell. Structure of the nucleus, more or less same like the animal cell, but if you talk about the position, how did we draw? Where did we draw? It is moved, pushed towards the wall, pushed towards the cell wall. So one feature, if I understand, about the cell wall. So which are some of the organelles now you come across which are some of the organelles now you come across, which you did not come across in the animal cells? Cell wall is there, then plastids and vacuole. So these are the three. Cell wall, if I have to understand, what are some of the characteristics of the cell wall? Let us try understanding some features. Cell wall, cell membrane, to majorly understand, nothing much. The composition, what function, that is what you have to study. So if I have to talk about the cell wall, what will you remember about the composition? The cell wall is made up of cellulose. What is the composition? Composition is cellulose. What is cellulose? It is a type of a sugar which makes the plant cell very, very rigid. What can be some of the functions, or is this cell wall having any special property? Does it show any special feature? Yes, it shows a special property, a special feature. That is, this cell wall is freely permeable. What about this cell wall? This cell wall is freely permeable. What do you understand? This cell wall will allow the molecules, all molecules to enter the cell, all molecules to leave the cell. So just understand that if the cell wall allows all molecules to enter and all molecules to leave, sometimes that may be disadvantageous also for the plant cell, no?
Yes.
So that's the reason the cell membrane takes the job of holding on certain molecules to enter, does not allow all molecules to enter. So now that we are talking about the cell wall and the cell membrane, what I said, composition, cellulose. Is there any special property you should remember? Yes, it is freely permeable. It allows the movement of all different substances. What about the functions of the cell wall? What about the functions of the cell wall? Provides rigidity. Provides, because it is a tough layer. Provides rigidity to plant cells. Provides rigidity to plant cells. What about the next? It provides rigidity to plant cells. And next is, it would also help in giving structural framework, rigidity when I say. Apart from that, the plant cell wall also has some protective function, protection I can say, protection. The plant cell wall also provides protection from unwanted substances. Since it is a dead and a rigid layer, certain type of substances, because it is rigid, may not be able to come in contact, and that's how it provides protection. So about the cell wall, only this much that you have to study. Just one or two functions. Composition is important. That is how you differentiate between the cell wall and cell membrane.
Still completing.
Now you'll complete this later. Wait. Plastids. This diagram is very easy. Plastids. What are plastids? Did we talk about plastids in the previous diagram for the animal cell? Is this another difference that you have to write? Animal and plant cell? Yes. Plastids present only in plant cells, absent altogether in animal cells. Okay. If I have to understand plastids, here only three types of plastids and their respective functions.
Can you give the difference between cell wall and cell membrane?
Cell wall and cell membrane, I told you this is one difference. Cell wall and cell membrane, all the questions we'll do later, don't worry. Questions, you learn the topics first, then you'll be in a state to solve the questions. Questions I'll do later. These answers I will give you later.
Yes.
Plastids, when we are talking about plastids, what are plastids? Plastids are some organelles which give or which produce variety of different type of pigments. Plastids are a type of an organelle which produce variety of pigments. Now let us see what are some of the plastids and what are their respective functions. Just one function you are supposed to understand. What is the first plastid? Chloroplast. The most common type of plastids. If it is chloro from this word chloro means green. What type of a pigment they produce? Chlorophyll. So is this chlorophyll responsible for the green color of the leaf, the green color of the young stem? So if the plant parts has got chlorophyll, then the plant parts are green, and the green parts of the plant show what process? Photosynthesis. One more will finish up. Chromoplast. Can you talk about a fruit color or a crop color? Carrots, the beetroot, the papaya, all these are different type of fruits and crops and flowers also. If I talk about, they have got a characteristic color. So the color is because of the chromoplast. And one type of pigment, and they have got various different type of the pigments. Chromoplast provides color. They give color, provides color to the plant parts. It can be the fruit or the crop or the flower or the seed. What about the third type of plastids? Leucoplast. These are colorless plastids. Unlike the chloroplast and the chromoplast, they will not produce any color. They will not produce any color. But they also should be having a function. What function? Their function would be storing starch or oil. Their function would be storing starch and oil. Leucoplasts. Something like these leucoplasts must be present in the potato. Does the potato have any particular color? No. Potato does not have any bright color like the carrots and the beetroots. No? Like the radish also does not have any specific type of a color. So such type of crops, fruits which does not have any specific color, but they store starch and oil, are rich in leucoplast. Chromoplast, did you understand? The different type of fruits, flowers, crops, they have a characteristic color because of this plastic. And the leaves and the young green stem, green because of this type of a plastic. Okay, well again, continue with vacuole little bit and
could you explain leucoplast again?
Leucoplast I said, leucoplast something like present in radish. Radish is not color.
So it does not provide color.
No color. It is colorless. Leucoplast is a colorless plastic. Where can they be present? Potato, radish. If I talk about the guavas, the inner part, the pear. So these are colorless, but they also contain some type of substances like the starch in certain type of fruit, crop we come across. Oil also present a little bit. But if I talk about the carrot and the beetroot and the purple colored cabbages and all these are all rich in this. But if I talk about the cabbages and the leaves and the young green stem, they are rich in this. Okay.
Shouldn't humans also have what you call it, plastics, because we all are different colors?
We show colors. Where is your color? Show me.
See, this is a different shade than hers.
That is not plastic. Color means now, if we have plastic, then we all would have been colorful. We all would have been purple and pink and green and red. We are not. No, this is different. We all have the same pigments, melanin, but in different concentrations only.
So we don't have plastics, we have melanin.
No, we have melanin. But melanin, somebody has less, somebody has more. So that makes us fair or a bit darker.
We have more melanin, does that mean we have fairer or darker?
More melanin dark, less melanin fair. So we'll continue.
Thank you.
We didn't cover it, right?
Actually, no.
Honestly. आपकी रेडी से बात हुई आरंभ के लिए? हाँ, हो गई? You're telling me have some claps.
I think we consider 25% of the job we have set.
It's nice of you to the check.
So we're not gonna have like that.
You good?
हमने किया ना क्वेश्चन क्या करते हैं तो अक्षरा क्वेश्चन करते हैं नहीं क्वेश्चन दे दो भाई कोई